The story begins in the clouds, where Ryo Mihara is informed by an angel that he has passed away in an accident. He understands that he's being reincarnated but wonders what he's supposed to do in his new life. The angel tells him he can live however he pleases. There's no mission or special agenda assigned to him, but still, Ryo questions if he's just meant to live freely. He learns that the world he's reincarnated into is filled with magic. It's called Phi, and in this world around 20% of humans can use magic. His most compatible element is water. Since he requested a slow life, he'll be reincarnated in the forest of Rondo. A house and 2 months worth of food will be waiting for him. No party, no mentor, no plan, just a dude and his water spells. Upon arrival, Ryo is surprised to see an ice house for storing food, which must be magic. His house has a protective field that keeps monsters away, something like a barrier. He finds a monster compendium, beginner edition, and a flora compendium, and even though he's never seen the language, he can read them. He tries casting a spell by saying, "Water, come forth," and a ball of water appears. He figures he might not need to vocalize spells, imagination might be enough. Still, he thinks incantations are cool. Alone in the forest, still more peaceful than group projects. The water he conjures is tepid, too bad. He was hoping to enjoy a warm bath. The next day, under the sun, he tries learning a new spell. He attempts to freeze water but finds it harder than expected. He wants to create something like an ice spear. Focusing on the H2O molecules, he visualizes hydrogen bonds forming, and soon, the water starts freezing. He then uses a magnifying glass and sunlight to shape it, successfully producing ice. That night, Ryo relaxes. It's been a productive first day. He thinks he could probably use the same logic to make hot water. Magic really does make life easier. Tomorrow, there's plenty more to do. He remembers Michael left him 2 months of food, meaning he'll eventually need to start hunting. The woods beyond the barrier are filled with monsters. A single knife won't be enough. He'll need offensive magic. To secure his peaceful life, he better start training. Practice makes a man perfect. He heads to an open field and casts Water Ball, his first attack spell. It's not very strong, which is disappointing but expected. Still, he has an idea. If Water Ball isn't enough, he'll try Water Jet. He imagines a high-pressure, narrow stream, but his first try fails. He recalls asking Michael how to use magic, and Michael told him that imagination is the foundation. Visualize clearly and work toward it over time. He keeps trying, and finally, it starts to look better. Encouraged, he figures he can reverse the ice process to make hot water, and it works. The next morning, Ryo is practicing creating ice out of thin air. It forms slowly, but it's possible. His goal? A proper offensive spell called Icicle Lance. It's harder to cast than water spells with limited range and power, so he doubts its combat effectiveness. Still, practice makes perfect, and he trains until he nearly passes out. Must be mana depletion. After intense training, he manages to instantly cast Icicle Lance, though it still lacks projectile force. Now it's time to venture outside the barrier. He enters the deep forest, peaceful and quiet. He finds a quartz crystal along the riverbank, which good for starting fires after sunset. He picks detox herbs and considers the day a success, trying to live slow, but Phi said boss fight on day 1. Suddenly, a lesser boar appears, which his first monster encounter is. He asks for peace. The world gave me wild boars and weather magic. It charges, and Ryo falls to the side. He can't move, but he has magic. He casts Ice Bond to trip it, then finishes it with 16 icicle lances. Breathing heavily, he sees that he's won. That night, sitting by the fire, he reads the compendium and learns that lesser boars are the weakest type, so are Bay. Still, he's unsettled. He flips to the final pages of the special edition content. Dragons are next, creatures capable of destroying entire cities. There's a note if you ever see one, run, though escaping is unlikely. Then there's the Akuma, that is not fallen angels, but unknown beings. The page ends with a prayer that the reader never encounters one. He sighs. This world is huge. Later, Ryo goes into the forest naked to pick fruit, wandering like Mowgli. Like Mowgli learning to survive without human help, Ryo navigates the harsh world of entertainment and exploitation alone. Suddenly, an assassin hawk attacks. He runs, knowing its main attack is air slash and sharp swoops. He tries ice magic, but the hawk dodges everything. Finally, he shields himself in ice. One of the hawk's eyes gets injured and it flies away, temporarily defeated. Ryo collapses, thinking this slow life is way harder than expected. He gets lost while running from the hawk and stumbles upon a man and a beast by the river. He kills a snake with magic and catches fish. With time, he gets better at water magic. He uses abrasive magic to slice a cliff in half. Realizing he can harden ice to act like a garnet blasting tool, he feels like he's finally getting the hang of it. One night, under a glowing moon, he encounters a Dullahan not mentioned in the beginner's compendium. Maybe it's too advanced. They fight intensely and Ryo collapses. He knows he can't win yet, but he keeps coming back. It's like the Dullahan is training him. Then the Dullahan reveals a water sword. Ryo is stunned. The Dullahan offers it to him. He's being told to master it. Ryo accepts the sword as it is the deadly generosity wrapped in steel and silence. After gifting him the sword, the Dullahan disappears. The next day, he sees another assassin hawk, much darker than before. He wonders if it could have evolved. The hawk attacks. Ryo forms a 5-layer ice wall, dodging as best as he can. Then he creates a 10-layer wall, but the hawk smashes through it. It fires a massive thunder attack from its mouth. Ryo strikes with the water sword and injures the hawk. Realizing the sword's true power, power, Ryo continues the assault. He finally defeats the hawk. He understands now it came back to avenge its eye, but also out of respect. They both gave their all. In a way, the hawk helped him grow. He draws his sword from its throat and moves to another part of the forest where he meets a talking dragon. He's shocked that the dragon uses telepathy, though it hasn't in a long time. The dragon uses telepathy because roaring is so last century. The dragon asks Ryo if he's seen a bird that evolved from an assassin hawk. Ryo admits he killed it. The dragon sees Ryo's sword and recognizes it. It's the sword of the fairy king. That must mean Ryo earned his favor. Ryo has questions, but the dragon says he's being called away. He enjoyed their chat, but he has to go. Ryo tells him his name, and the dragon introduces himself as Lewin before flying off. Ryo never thought he'd talk to a dragon, but in this world, anything is possible. Meanwhile, Michael realizes he overlooked something. He sees that Ryo has a hidden trait: eternal youth. No one has had that trait since the girl he sent to another world 10,000 years ago. The storm came early, right after that entrance. In the middle of a heavy rainstorm, a man lies unconscious. Slowly, he opens his eyes and wonders if he survived. He sees his clothes neatly folded beside him. Getting up, he walks out of the room. Outside the door, he finds himself surrounded by greenery. Confused, he asks himself where he is, when suddenly a voice calls out, "It's Ryo!" cheerfully greeting him and relieved that he made it through. The man is stunned, still unsure of what's going on. Looking at Ryo's unusual attire, he wonders if Ryo owns anything else to wear, but quickly realizes that probably shouldn't be the first thing he says. He introduces himself as Abel and thanks Ryo for saving his life, but Ryo insists there's no need for thanks because he only brought Abel home. He also informs Abel that he was the only survivor. The rest of the group didn't make it. Abel doesn't seem too shaken, they were just smugglers after all. Suddenly, his stomach growls loud enough to shake the trees. When the hunger hits harder than the tragedy, Ryo properly introduces himself. Abel, looking around, asks if Ryo has any spare clothes. But without fabric or thread, Ryo says, he can't exactly sew new ones. Abel realizes he's broke as he has no money, no supplies, not even basics. It's like when fashion sense exists, but fabric doesn't. Ryo explains that there aren't even any nearby settlements or people. Abel realizes Ryo is like a fierce heart and an empty closet. Abel notices some food clearly hunted and a knife nearby. He asks if Ryo used that knife, but Ryo says it's mainly for finishing prey. His real hunting tool is water magic. Abel is impressed. He tells Ryo that even in the central provinces, only about half the population can use magic. Ryo recalls that Michael told him only about 20% can use it in Phi. Abel then asks to be shown the coastline. He wants to confirm something. As they walk, he assumes Ryo must have lost everything and been forced into this rugged lifestyle. Abel offers to take the front line if trouble arises, but Ryo initially refuses. Abel insists that he doesn't want to be the guy who always gets saved. That would ruin his reputation. Abel fears that his hero status slowly turning into sidekick status. Ryo agrees to stay back. When they reach the shore, all the bodies are gone, maybe eaten or just washed out to sea. Looks like they missed their funeral by high tide. Abel knows he would have ended up like them if Ryo hadn't saved him. He explores the wrecked boat, while Ryo continues calling him Mr. Abel. Abel protests that his lifesaver can be so formal. He tells him to just call him Abel. Ryo agrees and Abel smiles. He's happy to be addressed normally. Abel fails to find what he was searching for in the boat. Ryo asks about his next move. Abel decides to try rendezvousing with his companions, starting with the town of Loon, but he thinks he's been swept far south. Unsure of his location, he asks Ryo to act as a guide. Ryo agrees. As they set off, Ryo takes a moment that night to say goodbye to someone. Abel thought Ryo said no one lived nearby. Maybe he's paying respects. Ryo visits the Dullahan and tells him he'll be away from the forest of Rondo for a while. He thanks him and requests one final spar, promising to give it his all. After an intense bout, Ryo is left panting. The Dullahan responds by creating a massive water ball that transforms into a flowing cape. Ryo accepts it with gratitude. Instant upgrade, from magician to mysterious hero. The next morning, he wears the cape with pride. Draped in style, ready to steal every scene, their journey begins. On the way, they encounter a wild boar. Abel swiftly slays it using combat skills. Ryo, unfamiliar with the concept, asks about it. Abel explains. That night, they camp out peacefully under the stars. The next morning, their journey continues. They spot a group of lizard folk. Ryo senses danger and kills them using icicle lance of level 4. Afterward, he magically crafts a cup of water and hands it to Abel, hydrated by elemental hydration. They continue walking. Abel shows Ryo a bronze florin, currency from the kingdom of Nightly where Loon is located. Ryo's never seen it. Abel explains that each province mints its coins, but they all follow the same denominations. Nightly is one of the 3 major powers, along with the Dabuhi Empire and the Handaloo Federation. Ryo finds Dabuhi a weird name. Suddenly, Abel hears stone shifting. Ryo quickly erects an ice wall, but they're surrounded. They'd wandered into a rock golem nest. Abel runs in with combat skills, but the golems regenerate. Ryo casts a 10-layer ice wall. It holds them off well. The final golem drops a large, vivid magic stone. Ryo hopes to collect more, but the others have already crumbled. Moving on, they see a massive hippo-like creature. Abel calls it a behemoth. From another direction, wyverns appear. Looks like they scored front row seats to a monster battle. The wyverns strike, but the behemoth shrugs off their attacks and annihilates them using magic negation. That night, they sit by the fire. Abel mentions traps and dungeons with similar magic nullifying effects. Ryo's eyes light up. He wants to explore a dungeon one day. Abel admits there's one in Looney, the town they're headed to, but didn't mention it earlier since he didn't know Ryo was into that sort of thing. They discussed dwarves and elves. Dwarves are mastersmiths and fierce fighters. Loon has a few. Elves mostly keep to their forest settlements. Ryo imagined them just like that. The two talked the whole night. The next day, they approach the mountains. Ryo predicts they're nearing human territory. Abel wonders where Ryo's getting this intel. Secretly, Ryo remembers what Lewin the talking dragon told him, that the land is surrounded by sea on 3 sides and mountains to the north, acting as a natural barrier. Ryo doesn't mention Lewin, brushing it off as a source beyond human understanding. Suddenly, a shadow appears above. A massive eagle stares down at them. Abel is drenched in sweat, frozen in fear. Ryo quickly tosses meat into the air. The eagle grabs it and flies off. Ryo breathes a sigh of relief. Abel, still shaken, notes that humans aren't built to fight beasts like that, and no one's seen behemoths or griffins for centuries. He suspects something's off about this place. Ryo thinks humans just haven't tried hard enough. Maybe the mountains kept the beasts out, but something brought them here, possibly someone. Soon they come upon a nest of wyverns. Abel warns that wyverns are far too much for the two of them. Normally, it takes a party of 20 seasoned adventurers, casualties included. Wyvern expected an army, got a dynamic duo instead. Even so, Ryo thinks avoiding a fight isn't possible. He asks if grounding them would make them easier to deal with. Abel agrees. Ryo casts an ice spear spell, raining frozen death from above and pinning the wyverns to the ground. Abel charges in and activates his combat skill known as Total Impalement. The combo wipes out the entire flock. Wyverns wanted 20, got 2, regretted everything. Abel harvests the magic stones. Turns out that was easier than expected. Abel wonders if they should be worried. Ryo turns to Abel and says to him that he prefers near-death battles to get his blood pumping. He is out here chasing boss fights for the adrenaline. Abel groans and tells him to stick to the plan. Ryo agrees, so long as Abel's up for it. Abel stares at the remaining wyvern flock. They will have to take them all down. They are not done yet. Time to clear the whole raid. Their journey resumes. Another peaceful day, and through it all, they're still together. After finally learning how to bonk wyverns like a pro, Ryo was ready to do it again and again. But Abel said, no way, no more fire-breathing chicken lizards today. Anyways, the best part that happened is that they got tons of shiny magic stones from the monsters. It was like finding treasure in a video game loot box. They walked pretty far north, but still had no clue where they were. Ryo guessed that maybe they are going to the Debuhi Empire. Abel laughed and said, nope, that place is way farther north. Good news, they hadn't gotten lost. Phew! Everyone sighed like they just avoided a giant spider. Abel didn't get why the Empire had a bad rap, but just saying the name made everyone shiver. Suddenly a road appeared, stretching like it wanted to help. Abel pointed and said, Kelati Town is that way, road trip, here they go. Town meant comfy beds, yummy food, and no mosquitoes camping on their faces. Both got super excited. Abel hyped up Kelati's food like it was the best in the world. Their tummies started cheering before they even arrived. Night fell like a phone battery warning. They reached the Adventurer Guild. Abel said him to get his guild card. It's like a VIP pass to skip fees and show off. He joked that paying a silver coin was like buying a sidekick. Ryo laughed. Best deal ever. Abel pretended he didn't want coins like a kid caught stealing cookies, but Ryo thanked him anyway. The guild bought magic stones and monster bits, perfect for lazy adventurers who don't want to make potions themselves. Then, bam, curry and rice appeared like secret DLC. Food. Usually, curry in Fantasy Worlds is locked behind crazy quests, but this one just popped up like, surprise, eat immediately. Ryo's eyes got huge like he'd seen a magic unicorn. Curry was legendary, spicy, and dreamy. Abel asked what was up, and Ryo played it cool. Then he ate it like a vacuum, cleaner with no breaks. Curry and rice were the best team ever. This was the ultimate power couple. Ryo asked if Loon had this curry too. Abel said yes, so Ryo added it to his food map. The curry was so good, even the plate looked sad when empty. Next morning, they were still talking about the meal. Abel acted surprised Ryo liked it so much. Ryo teased him for hiding food secrets. Ryo wanted to know about dessert, and Abel said he'd think about spilling the beans. They packed up and headed home. Golden wheat fields waved hello like friendly giants. A guard named Namur spotted Abel and thanked him. Abel paid the entry fee like a generous king. They went straight to the Adventurer Guild. Abel explained that newbies usually start at rank F, but with his recommendation, Ryo could start higher. Since Abel was B rank, he gave a big thumbs up for Ryo. Money wasn't a problem. Loot was like a treasure chest bursting with gold, but too much loot could crash the market. Abel trusted the guildmaster to handle it. Inside, people cheered like it was a surprise party. Abel's back, time to celebrate. While Abel got mobbed by fans, Ryo stood quietly. Then a girl appeared, said his clothes were cool, and left like a side quest. Ryo blinked. Abel grabbed him and told everyone Ryo saved his life. Hero status unlocked. Everyone thanked Ryo. His name started trending like a celebrity. Abel pushed for Ryo to get rank D. The receptionist said the Crimson Sword never gave recommendations. Abel said Ryo earned it. They needed proof, so a meeting with the guildmaster was set. Guildmaster Humaglass welcomed them. Super relieved Abel was alive. He nearly had a heart attack, he said. Hugh thanked Ryo like he saved the whole city. Ryo pulled out a sack of magic stones like a walking monster farm. Hugh's eyes popped big time. So many stones it looked like Rio soloed a raid boss. Abel said they came from wyverns near the scary Malefic Mountains. Hugh was shocked. Nobody crosses those mountains in lives? Abel asked if stones proved it. Spoiler, they did. Hugh approved. Rio's rank upgrade faster than a speedrun. Abel stamped it like a boss manager. Suddenly, a door slammed. A girl ran in and hugged Abel. Lynn, Rhea, and Warren, Abel's squad, joined the fun. Tears, hugs, and happy vibes filled the room. Hugh told Nina to do the paperwork. Crimson Sword was basically the town celebrity club. Ryo went from unknown to MVP in one cutscene. They wondered if rank D was too low. Hugh said even Abel couldn't solo wyvern, so Ryo must be powerful. The guildmaster didn't see a normal adventure, he saw a whole boss fight. Nina started the registration. She explained the steps. Free lodging for 300 days after joining. Monthly dungeon training classes. Rio signed up right away. Class started in 2 days at 9 a.m. Nina pointed to the clock and says him to not be late. She gave Rio a glowing registration crystal, like getting a game power-up. Bam, official adventurer unlocked. Hugh planned to spread the news of Abel's survival. Hype levels went way up. Time to collect payment for the escort mission. Abel wanted to buy Rio clothes and a staff, but Rio didn't have a staff, just a tiny sword hidden like a secret weapon. He cast spells without gear. Total cheat code move. Rio asks him how the world worked. Turns out it had days, weeks, and months just like Earth. Measurements were in centimeters and curry was everywhere. Abel came back with gear. The squad threw a mini party for Rio. Food, laughs, and clapping. Rio was the guest of honor. Abel's return was the spark everyone needed. After the party, Rio walked with Nina. She said Ra admired Abel. Nils and Ito popped up, training nearby. They waved like friendly NPCs. Nina left and the boys started chatting. Nils said Nina was pretty. Ito joked all clerks were super competitive. One of them said the real dream was to be awesome and get noticed by cool girls. Nina came back with a new adventurer, Eamon, 16, ready to start his journey. She and Ryo would attend the dungeon course together. Party members unlocked. Meanwhile, Abel's squad argued about magic. Lynn, the friend of Abel, didn't believe water magic was strong. Ice walls floating in air. Sounds like a fairy tale. Abel said Ryo's magic was next level. Even Ryo was impressed. Lynn doubted ice spears could break wyvern windshields. Abel swore it happened. Rhea told stories about the Inferno magician who burned armies solo. She compared Rio to that. If Rio joined the Empire, game over. Abel said don't worry. The Debui Empire had a cursed name and bad vibes. The squad didn't get it but trusted Abel. For now, chill mode was on. One thing was clear, Rio was special. The big dungeon adventure finally started. The squad was super excited but also a little nervous, like when waiting for the ice cream truck to arrive. Amon was bouncing around like a squirrel who drank 10 cups of coffee. Rio joked that if he used up all his energy now, he would be snoozing by lunchtime. Everyone laughed, but the butterflies in their stomachs kept fluttering. Before going in, the teacher gathered everyone for a quick question time. Rio surprised everyone by asking if teleporting to places already visited in the dungeon was possible. The teacher blinked like, wait, seriously? Then smiled and said that in some dungeons far south, sure, but not in their hometown dungeon, Loon. Just stories and wishful thinking there. Eamon looked at Rio like he just found out he was secretly a wizard spy. Rio shrugged and said he heard it from someone once. Still, it felt like secret info. The dungeon wasn't just some scary hole, it was like the town's big, creepy basement. The whole city had grown around it, like a giant tree with roots underground. Near the town gate was the guild office, where adventurers usually signed in and out, but today was special. It was school time for monster fighters. The squad stepped into the dungeon's first layer. No scary monsters yet, just a gentle warm-up. Like training wheels on a bike, but in a dark, spooky cave. They could explore freely but had to stay near the teacher. Suddenly, the air buzzed. Rio and Eamon both felt it. Something was nearby. Rio pointed, and out came a soldier ant, the tutorial boss of the dungeon bugs. It might look small, but its neck was its weak spot. Anyone who ignored that usually got smacked hard. Rio fired his Icicle Lance 8 spell like a frosty rocket launcher. Eamon followed with a sharp sword slash. The ant fell down, defeated. Loot time! They grabbed a magic stone, because no first mission feels complete without treasure to brag about. The sun set, and the team finished with 0 injuries. Score! Back at the base, Ito's eyes sparkled as he praised Ryo's first strike. Amon was ready for round 2, wanting to jump back in right away, but dungeon solo wasn't the best idea. Rio offered to join next time and planned a trip to the 3rd layer. They'd heard soldier ants were showing up in the wrong places, trouble brewing. Abel, the cool local adventurer, dropped by with news. Soldier ants were digging up early. Smart bugs, bad timing. Rio teased that veterans were picking on newbies. Abel laughed and called it motivational therapy, like tough love from monsters. Then came introductions. Abel, the walking chaos, asked Ryo's roommates to babysit him, not because he was weak, but because of some weird habits. Nils, already half a fanboy, introduced himself with so much excitement he could have named a pet after Abel. They shook hands like they just signed a game contract. He reminded everyone to stay alive, classic adventurer advice. When asked why he was late, he said he'd just returned from a crazy time warp quest. Then Rhea showed up, pulling Abel to meet the guildmaster. Lynn stared at Rio like she was trying to read secret cheat codes in his brain. The squad disappeared down the hallway, Abel being dragged like a stubborn kid refusing bedtime. On the way back, Rhea told Lynn to calm down a bit. Lynn didn't blink, too focused on Rio's skills. Abel joked the magic show was just getting started, so lots of drama ahead. The next monster hut began with Eamon slicing enemies like chopping onions, fast and smooth, reminding everyone of Abel's style. Eamon shared that his teacher was Kiro, a retired adventurer from a famous royal sword school. Top-tier training, like the Olympics of sword fighting. Rio, mostly known as a mage, handled his sword like he had a grudge. His fighting style had no fancy name, just pure vibes. He told Eamon to think of training like running a marathon. Build stamina now, look cool later. Even Abel, the natural talent, didn't skip basic drills. Discipline mattered. Eamon got inspired, ready to practice hard and level up. The next day, Rio skipped dungeon duty and hit the library. First trip, he left with a bag full of magic books and a cookbook, because adventuring needs brains and snacks. While Rio was thinking about book prices, the sky suddenly went dark, not just cloudy, but a full eclipse. Then, out of nowhere, fire magic rained down like a fiery disco party. Quick on his feet, Rio used ice magic to dodge the fiery doom. Then, a mysterious girl. Her eyes were like fire alarms and her attitude was even hotter. Rio sensed danger, maybe an Akuma, maybe worse. Escape crossed his mind, but he had just enough time to cast a protective barrier. Even her famous Hellfire attack got blocked. She was impressed but thought Rio's magic was bold and a little silly. Then she noticed the Fairy King's robes he wore. Her mood switched instantly. No more fireballs, now weapons were drawn. She charged like a rollerblading tornado. Rio dodged and parried, sparks flying everywhere. Her attacks were fast but didn't have the pressure of true masters. Still, she fought fiercely and demanded to know who Rio was. A new wave of strikes came. Rio blocked and countered, landing a clean hit. She healed in the middle of battle like a boss character, laughing arrogantly. Then, out of nowhere, a surprise fireball hit her. She vanished, only to reappear after the sky cleared. She said the fight was fun and that it had been ages since she felt so alive. Her name was Leonor Urraca Albuquerque, fancy enough to be royalty, and her favorite hobby was chaos. Before leaving, she boldly claimed Rio as her property, which sounds so wild. She promised to come back stronger. Rio's future just got bookmarked by a firestorm. Exhausted, he limped away. But just as he headed out, shock struck. His roommates were under attack. Time for a dramatic entrance? No warning, just icy justice from Rio. The attackers didn't stand a chance. Dan, the ringleader from room 11, got introduced to Regret. Rio handed Ito a healing potion and told the team to rest. Ito patched the bruises with magic. No broken bones, but the hits felt like getting run over by a truck. That attack, if it had landed better, could have been disastrous. But Rio promised to explain everything later. The battlefield cooled down like leftover fries. Kinda sad, but still there. Goblins disappeared faster than cookies when someone says, "Who wants dessert?" Rio kept thinking about yesterday's fight like it was the hardest video game level ever. Leonor's magic was wild, fast and flashy, like a dance party where everyone's showing off their coolest moves. If her spells had a TikTok, they'd have millions of views and sparkly effects. Time to get stronger, like a video game hero leveling up. Weaknesses had to become strengths, even if that meant using funny tricks. Leonor's blink move was like teleporting with super fast internet, zoom. But Rio couldn't do wind magic, so he picked water magic instead. Rio chose water jet, a skill for fish but perfect for land chaos. He blasted off like a rocket with way too much energy. It was a little messy, like trying to skateboard on jelly. It kinda worked. Maybe it looked cooler in Rio's imagination, but hey, practice makes a man perfect. When in doubt, just spam magic. Anyways, the next stop is the library. Forbidden books are like mystery treasure chests waiting to be opened. Lynn went on a solo mission. No fighting, just books as tall as giant chairs. The library was so quiet it felt spooky, like a ghost might pop out with a boo. She opened forbidden books like cursed fortune cookies. No magic spells, just dusty old pages. The spell she wanted probably needed crazy scientist energy to make. Even the smartest wizard would cry over those books. Maybe ancient fire wizards made something close, but that's like asking a toaster to do math. Supers. Weird. Sarah arrived in the middle of Lynn's book mess, looking like a hurricane. Lynn gave up, like a game character running out of magic power. Sarah just came back from a big city mission, no time to relax. An important messenger was already waiting, tapping her foot like a slow-loading screen. Back at the guild, Nina welcomed the team like a boss. Eamon, Nils, and Ito showed off shiny magic stones from the dungeon's 5th level. The place was usually quiet, but now it was popping like soda cans. Nina's eyes went big. Not wow big, more like uh-oh big. She sent a report to the guildmaster, sounding alarms like a video game emergency. Nina put a giant red flag on the board, like a YouTube video thumbnail yelling, "Watch now." Guild leader Hugh McGlass frowned like a final boss ready for battle. Goblins showed up too early, like spoilers before the movie started. They were supposed to appear after level 10, not this early. Either the system messed up or something huge was coming, like a monster tsunami. They checked for B-rank squads, Crimson Sword, and White Brigade. Phelps, the White Brigade leader, was there. Time to assemble the team like a superhero squad. Hugh planned to handle the rest, juggling many side quests. Abel was stuck being socially awkward, like a frozen robot. Rhea rolled her eyes so hard it almost made wind magic. Lynn told Abel to stop whining and level up like an outdated app. Around the strategy table, Phelps nodded while Hugh shared the news. Goblins on level 5 were real. Magic stones proved it, like receipts for bad goblin behavior. Phelps skipped small talk and got to the point: go down, find signs of the tidal boar, and survive. Fun if fun means being monster snacks. The tidal boar means monster spawns going wild. It's been 10 years since the last one. This one was on time, like a cursed birthday party no one wanted. Reha did the math. Early goblins might be the start. Hugh tossed coins like a game shopkeeper. 100 now, 200 later. Knights were called, and fort plans started. The dungeon entrance looked abandoned, with double walls like a super strong castle. Everyone agreed. Time to get serious. 2 elite squads said yes without blinking. Only legends here. Ryo planned to visit the north side library. He heard it has more advanced books than the south side, especially about alchemy. His friend Ito said only D-rank adventurers can enter, but Ryo qualifies. To read the forbidden texts, he needs to be B-rank, but they believe he'll get there soon. Meanwhile, Nils and the others were heading to the dungeon again. Ryo went to the library. It was huge, and he realized he'd need help finding the right books, but he worried people would think he was crazy if he said he wanted to study Akumas. Surprisingly, Sarah was also there. Elsewhere, Abel and Phelps were gathering C-rank adventurers for a dungeon raid. Hugh stood at the dungeon gate ready. Suddenly, Lynn used wind magic to scan the area. Monsters, hundreds of them, were coming fast. Hugh immediately ordered a retreat. Runners sent warnings to the knights and guilds. Back at the library, Sarah noticed Ryo. He told her about his golem and alchemy project. She helped him like a guide. They had a great conversation. Meanwhile, the battlefield was madness of goblins, arrows, spells, warriors. Everyone was fighting. Even water became precious. Lynn saved her magic carefully. Supplies were running out. People were using anything they could to fight. Nils returned with bad news that something worse was coming. The Crimson Sword group was chosen to face it. Just as the goblin wave stopped, it was time to go deeper. No ropes or ladders, just wild wall jumps. 3 goblin generals appeared, mini-bosses. Then came the real boss, the Goblin King. In one hit, he took out 3 elite goblins like they were nothing. Abel and Phelps were the only ones strong enough to fight back. Abel used his strongest moves. It looked like a win, but the king barely reacted. Then Lynn used her ultimate spell, Bullet Rain. Magic fell from the sky like a storm. They finally beat the Goblin King. Phelps was amazed. Back at the library, he left with sharp eyes and big dreams. His golem plan was just beginning, and the real adventure hadn't even started yet. All the guys are having a blast at the party. They are drinking as if they have not had a drink in ages. They are eating meat like they have never seen it before. Ryo is shocked to witness this party scene. Meanwhile, Hugh is envious of the guys who are able to join the party. He wishes he could be drinking. He is overburdened with work. He manages the guild, makes reports to the capital, requests for funds for the great tidal boar handles, paperwork for payouts, does assessments of the adventurers who participated, and plans to restore and replenish the facilities. He has a lot on his plate to handle for a human. He is worried that researchers from the capital are going to show up wanting to study what happened, even though the dungeon is going to be sealed for a month. He is definitely underwater. They are celebrating the end of the great tidal boar at the guild. Lynn and Rhea enter the guild together. Ryo has his priorities straight. He finds the celebration to be a good reason to drink alcohol. Nils approaches him to tell him that he should have seen Abel when Abel thrust his sword at the Goblin King and gave Lynn the signal to unleash a crazy spell. Abel is the only one who was able to dodge one of the most powerful wind spells, the Bullet Rain with the sword skill, Perfect Shadow. Abel says it is a technique for dodging any kind of ranged attack, including magic. Everyone is really impressed by Abel's abilities. Lynn and Rhea come to find Abel. Rhea knew he would be with Ryo. She asks Abel if Ryo is his favorite pal, and Ryo feels a bit of hostility. Lynn asks Ryo if he is really able to conjure an ice wall way up in the air. Ryo reveals that 40 meters or more is his limit. It is not child's play, and it took Ryo quite a while to master. Most people cannot do it at all. Lynn asks him if it is some kind of original spell because most magic is invoked by reciting existing incantations. Ryo explains that it comes down to personal preference and everyone has a different style of incantations. After hearing that the buffet is closing soon, Ryo takes his leave from Lynn and Rhea. Abel says that Ryo can cast spells even without incantations, and this goes beyond strange. Later, Nils, Eamon, and Ito stand in front of the dungeon feeling hopeless after finding no jobs. Ryo approaches them to learn the reason they are not working. With the dungeon closed, they thought of taking some collection quests on the surface, but there has been such an influx the past few days that buyers are rescinding their usual requests. Ryo is looking for some ore, but it is all sold out. He needed it because he wanted to practice alchemy. Ito asks if he is talking about magic copper ore, which is really expensive. Ryo found one at the store for 50 gold coins. Ryo is rich while others cannot even earn if they want to. Ryo offers the 3 of them a job. There is a magic copper ore vein outside the dungeon, and Ryo wants to find it. There is an abandoned mine near the village of Rusay. Ryo offers them 4 gold coins as pay, and he will buy the magic copper ore for 25 gold coins per piece. His only concern is that the 3 of them make it back safely. Later, Ryo witnesses some evil guys harassing a girl. A man is trying to save her from the armed men. One armed man takes out his sword to teach the poor guy a lesson for getting in his way. But suddenly, the armed man fell over and could not move his leg. It was Phelps doing as he was standing behind them. He shouts at them for behaving without manners while being knights of the kingdom. Phelps is annoyed nobleman and heir to the House of Heinlein. He is the son of the former Knights commander. The Knights quickly vanish from the scene on Phelps's orders. Phelps encourages Dan, the man who intervened to save the girl. Phelps looks up at the window and greets Rio. Phelps introduces himself as the captain of the White Brigade. Phelps has heard about Rio's magic power through Abel. Rio and Abel sit together at the cafe. Rio refuses to treat Abel to lunch as he is the junior. Rio teases Abel that there must be a lucky girl who has caught his eye. Abel tells Rio that Lynn has a crush on Warren. Rio thinks they are a striking pair and that love can overcome a little height difference. Rio knows that Abel is interested in Riha, and Abel's reaction just confirmed it. He might as well have hearts popping out of his eyes. Abel decides to use Rio's help. One of the dispatchers sent to Loon is an old friend of Abel's. Abel is trying to collect some runaway knights tonight before they cause trouble. Rio spots some unknown adventurers who are hiding their faces. Many travelers come to explore the dungeon from time to time, but the thing is, the dungeon is closed at the moment. Rio and Abel catch them and hand them over to the guards. Later, a bunch of knights follow Phelps to take their revenge. Shenna takes the matter into her own hands and deals with them even before they bother Phelps. Hugh agrees to open the dungeon on the Majesty's request, but he makes himself clear that if anything happens, then the town of Line and the guild would not be held responsible. A girl with big blue eyes approaches Rio. She is nervous. She asks Rio to take her to the guild quickly. She hands an envelope to Abel sent by Professor Hilarion. The professor has asked for the guild support for the court magicians as they investigate the dungeon. The dungeon is closed because decades ago an A-rank party never returned from it. Their leader was said to be superhuman and he still did not make it back alive. No one knows what goes on in the dungeon following a great title bore. Sounds like a 1-star review. The dungeon is going to be open tomorrow, but some adventurers are sad because only D-rankers and above will be allowed to enter. The next morning, Hugh gives a briefing to all members regarding the dungeon. The E and F rankers are not invited to the investigation team. Rio raises a question about a magic stone being discovered from the monsters in the boar. Hugh reveals that all of the magic stones collected from the great title boar were pale. That includes the Goblin King and the Goblin Generals. Rio regrets asking the man a simple question. The man sent from the capital, Clive Staples, investigates the dungeon with his team. They find a large entrance inside that might be connected to another location, maybe to paradise or hell. Clive refers to it as the gate for their purposes. He orders his men to set up the equipment and begin examining it as soon as possible.